Joining us next is John Ferguson. John Ferguson is the CEO of Saxon Aerospace and Saxon Unmanned. He went very, very viral this weekend because Joe Rogan shared his clip. John, welcome to the program. John, I'm going to play this clip that went very viral, and then we have time. I want you to just uninterruptedly and freely explain even deeper what happened here. Joe Rogan said this was the first clip about the drones that actually scared him. Play cut 25, please.
So I spoke to a gentleman a few months ago who was trying to raise an alarm to the highest levels of our government, which they had their ears closed, about this one particular nuclear warhead that he physically put his hands on. He physically touched this warhead that was left over from Ukraine. And he knew that that thing was headed towards the United States. Okay? That is a very serious deal. And everyone knows that the United States government, this administration, is pushing to get into a war with Russia. We all know that. We all feel it. We all see it.
All right, John, what's going on here?
Well, thank you, Charlie. And by the way, I saw you and Tucker here in Wichita a few months ago, so I really enjoyed
awesome.
that. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that Kansas State University didn't treat you very well. I'm still paying Kate's son. So, I have, a small political footprint, and, you and I know some similar people, and as a manufacturer of unmanned systems, some of the comments and other stories out there that have been done on me in the last couple of days are a little inaccurate. I'm not a government-backed organization or anything like that, but again, I wanted to make sure I made that very clear, but these folks knew that I had ties, or I knew people in elevated positions here in the country, and they wanted me to help them try to get awareness started over this nuclear munition, or this nuclear payload that this guy physically was in a small country on the eastern bloc of Europe. He physically put his hands on this, and he knew that was supposed to be heading to the United States. This guy came back here to the States, and he's like, "Hey, everybody, there's this stuff going on. Let's do something to raise awareness. Let's stop this thing." And he gained no traction, so he reached out to me and my network, and then I made some phone calls and tried to get a hold of some people, and it just didn't seem to go anywhere. And that was about probably 8 months or so ago. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous. And so when I saw these drone videos and I saw the hysteria going on about these drones and wondering if they were nefarious or if they were Iran's drones or anybody else's, I just felt compelled to do my first ever TikTok video ever. And this happened, but I just wanted to just tell people that, these drones are here. They're there to do a job, and that's it. And the federal government's not going to tell you, any of us, ever what they're actually doing, So,
and is it in you're speculating that the drones are trying to sniff out radioactive material? And has that been proven to be a successful strategy to find radioactive material before?
It is. We have radioactive material sniffers on our unmanned aircraft. That's absolutely a capability of an unmanned aircraft. And if you look at what these drones are doing, they seem to be. There is some conflicting stories, but they seem to be trying to follow, the FAA guidelines. They have nav lights on them. If they had a nefarious intent, then they wouldn't have nav lights on them. But they're concerned about obviously hitting other manned aircraft in such a busy airspace area. but it is a very successful operation, or a very successful capability to be able to detect gases or other materials on the ground. We have what we call methane detection systems, where we mount them on our unmanned aircraft, and we fly along pipelines, and we can very accurately pick out pretty much almost 100% of every single gas leak. Now, these drones are flying at night because they're seem to be flying under cover, and they do not want their the shape of the drone to be well known, because then you can track down what manufacturer is actually producing the aircraft, right? So they seem to be following some rules. They're flying at night. There's no reason really to be flying an unmanned aircraft at night unless you have a very specific purpose, because with a standard camera on a drone, you can't see anything at night unless you're using thermal optics or some form of sensor like that. They're flying at night also because the winds are down. They're not as aggressive as they are during the day. So, you would get a much more accurate reading at night when you're trying to smell chemicals or some type of gas.
So I have so many questions. Based on what you are seeing from these videos, are you able to decipher that they are American-made, American-sourced, and they're not foreign drones? Are there defining configuration characteristics, or is it not clear based on the videos you've seen?
Most of the videos that I have seen are not really very helpful in trying to determine who the very specific manufacturer is. There are some photographs and videos out there of drones flying that just like, yeah, well, we know who that is, right? But I couldn't really give a definitive answer on who specifically is the manufacturer of that aircraft. I just couldn't give you a very accurate assessment on that. But I do very firmly believe that these are absolutely not nefarious and from another country, without us knowing the reason behind those aircraft. And there's a lot of them. It's an FAA monumental event for the FAA to give authorization.
30 seconds. How many drones approximately do you think have been in the airspace at one time?
The videos that I'm seeing dozens. So that would be, again, a monumental event to authorize that many aircraft to fly over a populated area. That's just not something the FAA typically allows.
Is it possible that most of these are manned aircraft?
I do believe there's a mix. I believe that some folks are out there. I've seen some thermal imaging where people have actually shot videos of aircraft that they thought were drones, and they actually turned out, with the heat signatures, they actually turned out to be manned aircraft. So there is a mix. There's a mix of multicopters, which are the vertical takeoff type drones, like quadcopters you get at Best Buy, but only much larger. Mm-hmm. And then there's also a mixture of fixed wing aircraft that I've been able to see.